Hello, hello, hello. How is everyone doing today? Everyone survived the afternoon massacre. This pretty much sums up the afternoon in the markets. Uh, I can put this up because I did go to Northwestern too. So there we go. In these markets, it is sell the rallies. Let me just get rid of that for a second. It is sell the rallies, but in a bear market, especially, man, it was the same day sell the rally. Even with yields down and the 10-year up, woof, the selling this afternoon was relentless. We'll take a look at that. And then you have Netflix on top of it. Oh boy, we'll take a look at that chart. Home Depot hit another target. Wow, it's to the short side. Let's see who's here. Hello, Kalani. Hello, making my day, making my afternoon even better with the 4.99 super chat. Rich says it's a bipolar market. This is turning into even with the indices holding up still this well, it's turning definitely into more of a bear market, and we will get one of those rip your face rallies off. But this is where you have to be so nimble. You have to be so nimble. Like I was that selling this afternoon. I was like, whoa. Well, the only way to trade this now is to short. Yesterday I was hooked on shorting. Now I'm full blown at it. Just be careful when we do get when those rip your face off rallies, which do tend to happen when we get stuff like this going on. However, longer term, I mean, this is just getting more and more bearish. Now, we will get bounces that will sustain for more than like 2 or 3 hours at some point. But this definitely, we've talked about it now for a while. It's distribution top. And stuff, even on rallies, it's like, hey, it's up. I'm going to sell into it. I want to change my position. Hey, Josh, how you doing today? And then we have the stuff going on, that music, and I feel like I'm in some sort of late 80s Val Kilmer. I can never say that last name. That music, and I feel, oh, well, that's just the way it is for right now. Maybe at some point I'll change the music. Uh, Russia's military again is on the move, and pressure on Ukraine. Yeah, there's the Ukraine stuff out there. Netflix. Well, their numbers weren't that poor. Their guidance is what did them in. Their numbers weren't actually that bad, but where their forward guidance, I think, instead of, we'll get to that in a second, but instead of guiding like people were looking for 6 or something million subscribers. Let's see. They now just expect 2.5 million streaming paid subscribers this quarter, 2/3 below the consensus of 6.26 million. So that was like a huge, brutal miss. Brutal. Hey, Dan Jet. Holy smoke, Netflix makes me want to go flat on my account. Look, we're going to see a lot of these, especially even with a bounce. We're going to see over the next while a lot of stuff, especially a lot of overinflated stuff, come back to earth. So it's sort of been the lesson. Don't try to pick bottoms. Don't try. There'll still be good things to trade out there. You just have to be really picky and manage your stops alongside, because things can turn on a dime. Looks like the market should crash big. Well, we shall see. I mean, this is not helping. I'm listening to Titanic song right now. Eh? You guys are great. You guys are great. Let's just go through today. We had Fed Philly Manufacturing Index. I'm going to make this probably a regular part. A slight beat to the upside. That was about the positive. Unemployment claims higher than expected. Existing home sales lower than expected. Crude oil was a 0.5 million surplus instead of a draw as expected. Tomorrow, the only thing I'm really paying attention to is Yellen speaking, but she might try to jawbone the market up and be a proxy since the Fed can't speak right now. So we'll see if she bleeds into that territory because I don't trust anything, right? I don't trust anything in the political framework, but I don't, especially, they'll try to jawbone this thing up. So I'm going to pay attention to that. Oops, 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 oops. Oh, we got a little preview on the heat map. Before that, earnings after markets. Netflix, which we will take a look at. Netflix was the big one this afternoon. CSX, I'm interested in that from the rail traffic perspective. And then there's, some miscellaneous banks. But Netflix was the big one this afternoon. And then tomorrow, there's not a lot. I'll check in on Ally,Ally, and Schlemberger. I just like to say that, Schlemberger. So we shall see. It'll be interesting to see with Schlemberger. See, this is why I like this. You can see this major base breaking above it. So it'll be interesting to see how that goes tomorrow. Here's the heat map. Heat map. Ooh. Ugly, ugly, ugly. I mean, you could pick out you got MasterCard up a little. You got Morgan Stanley up some today. You got Pfizer, but look at this. I mean, this is Amazon down nearly 3%. Microsoft had a nice rally today and rolled over. Apple down again, that triggered that double on the daily. Disney and Netflix, that doesn't even reflect after hours. So Exxon held up pretty good, but it's just brutal today. You can see this across the board with your heat map. That's why it's handy. I do glance at that throughout the day periodically just to get an idea if what sectors are trending, what's rolling over. Definitely saw the roll over this afternoon. What do I thought? Oh, that was Apple. There. Oh, wow. Now down to it actually paused at this 44.67 mark for a while. We will get to that in a second. Let's see. Nasdaq at the 50 MA on the weekly chart. We'll take a look at this. I'm not into Netflix, but this scares me for Apple, Tesla, and Amazon earnings. We're still getting into, even if something does pretty well, it can still be sell the result. Amazon will be interesting though because there could be some slowdown, especially with retail in December was already weak. So that could be interesting with Amazon. Apple is just such a huge market cap, but again, Apple triggered. Before we get to stuff, Apple, there we triggered that double from yesterday, even with this hitch. People are, wondering, well, wasn't this hitch invalidated? No, not at all. It's not anywhere close to a triple top. This is just a rotation up before it triggers. And Apple still has, even with rallies, you see here, rally intraday. And then 1 hour rotation zone, and then boom, rotation down. So I mean, there's nothing for me from the bullish side to do, even on rallies with Apple yet. I mean, Apple really has to prove itself. Real quick, let's just take a look. Home Depot also. Look at this. First target hit yesterday, actually twice the day before. Also, next target just hit. Home Depot is just getting massacred, but we already had that short identified. Keep an eye out, though, at the 200, and then we break below that. I'm keeping an eye on 341 area. I actually have alerts set right there, too. So just wanted to highlight that. Let's take a look at Netflix. Then we'll get into the overall market. So that's what it looked like. By the way, I was asked on Discord, was this a potential double bottom? It was until the very end of the day when it rotated back down. You see this. Before this rotation down, we had this very sloppy double bottom turning into a triple before earnings. And earnings, I don't even know where is this thing now. Let's zoom out. Let's zoom way out. Whoa, boy. There we go. Trading right now, 411. Where were we a bit ago? Let's take a look at the after hours. If you can indulge me, here's your oh, that is ugly. Hey, there's a nice potential gap play at some point. Oh, and I would not be this, even with a slight bounce. If it does bounce tomorrow, this is nothing I'd be playing off the gap just yet. I mean, we're down. Here is the 200 week moving average. We're below it right now. And remember, this it broke, back at the beginning of January below the 200, and it's just, yeah. Can we get bounces? But there's nothing. This, I mean, look, we're down here already. Oh, jeez. I mean, even on this is just sell the rallies for the time being, especially with that subscriber growth back below here. I mean, this is some major support on the weekly, but this is now. I mean, any rally is running into prior support becoming resistance, and just look at that gap it's going to leave behind. So won't be touching that anytime soon. All right. With that cheerful move, let's take. Oh, let's see. I can't even get into the markets yet. Peloton. Well, they're halting production of their equipment, and so there's like a 2 month halt on their bike producing and a 6 month halt, I think, on their tread, if or their tread plus. It's coming down. I mean, its post is 24. What was the IPO lows? Were boy, this is 1770, and we could be getting down there. I have a next cluster at about 1850 area. So I'm watching this. At some point, if this gets sold enough, I believe it will get acquired by somebody for a long-term play. If it gets cheap enough, I'd start watching that just because of their huge subscriber base, and if you can really start to turn this thing around. I think they overspent with money, and it's just stuff. It's just, why do I have an extra moving average on there? Why do I have an extra moving average there? I don't want a 9 period. Get out of there. Oops. What did I take away? Oops. There we go. Okay. Fixed. So yeah, Peloton taken to the woodshed. Again, these things have to start making at least some kind of basing move before I'd even look at them. Try to trade something strong versus trying to pick bottoms, please, especially in these markets. All right. Let's see. Let's see what we got before I get out there. We did, Peloton was taken out. All right, ensue all panic. We're not in panic yet. This is just, again, put it in perspective. Look at the rally from the lows where all the money was pumped in, and look where we are. Okay? I mean, you got to put this into perspective still. Everybody's in full-blown panic mode, but we could pull back substantially from this over the next while. This is nothing in the big scheme of things. Now, at some point people get overexcited on the rallies, but this is where you got to keep the bigger picture in mind. We kissed away. This is what's interesting. Coming up to the daily rotation zone, and then just the brutal selling in the S&P. Looking at the heat map is a great idea, by the way. It's fantastic. I'll share it with here because it just gives us a really quick glance at a bunch of stuff. I think you said Rich 14,380. Yeah, that's a longer term target. We talked. Netflix pulled a Peloton. Let's see. Put flow was non-stop today on this SPY, Q, and other major tech stocks. Russell we'll take a look at the Russell. I'm going to start adding this in. The music licensing is killing Peloton. Well, and I own a Peloton. I think the stock was way overvalued, but I don't know how you do a spin class without music licensing. It'd be tough to have a spin class with just instructors. So S&P now very, very oversold. Does that mean it can't go lower? It can keep going lower, but the 200 is right here, 44.20 area. So even on a push down tomorrow, I'll be watching Friday. where we close in relationship to the 200, and I'm really watching what Yellen has to say because she'll probably try to jawbone this thing up. Here was the afternoon. Let's just take a look at the here's the selling that came in. Again, never got into my bullish line in the sand. Tomorrow, I'm going to be watching about 45.15 as the first key area. This is hard to even find a pausing bar. Look at this. Here's your selling on the 15-minute. That is just relentless selling. Here's your selling on the 5-minute. Look at the few pausing bars. And just, I mean, that is non-stop. That is non-stop. Well, I got to find the areas to watch for a, let's see, I got to change some of this stuff up now. It's pretty sad when you can't even find levels to project. We're going to have to go down to something. I mean, I got to literally use a 5-minute pausing bar here. That's harsh. We're right at this. We've already had that 44.46 level identified, this prior little resistance becoming support. And we have the 200 right below. Remember, we were into this clear path move. The full target for the clear path move is coming down all the way here. Do I expect it to get there tomorrow? Not unless we have an absolute bloodbath. But that's even on bounces. That's a longer term target below the 200. There'll be some minor stopping points right in here. 43.90 area. So below this, about 200's coming in about 44.20. Then I got 43.90, then 43.27 with the harmonics. And I'd use those major levels before I'd use the harmonics right now, just because I don't have a great pausing area. So for this, and look at that, even with this, it reinforces the levels that level we already knew. So that's that. On a rally, you know, there isn't a lot of now resistance. Look at this. I mean, until we get back to this 4,500, 45.15, there's just no stopping points. So if you get a big momentum to the upside, I'll be targeting this 4,500 to 45.15. But then I got to pay attention again. If we get up to, here was the rotation zone on the 4-hour today. There's from yesterday. Rotation zone 4-hour, rotation down. Today, rotation zone 4-hour, brutal rotation down. So I'm still watching the rotation zone, although we may, even with this, start to put in a lower momentum divergence. And shorts will probably be covering end of day tomorrow if we're still down in order to not carry over the weekend. So, and probably go flat. So again, unless we rally in the morning and they start covering in the morning, I'll be watching for a short covering in the afternoon tomorrow. That's really about it on the S&P. Let's see. Yep. Thanks for reminding me. Option expiration tomorrow, the monthlies. Third Friday of January, monthly options. So there'll be big swings, and now you can always pay attention to the open interest levels for some of the key indices to see if we get some pins there. But tomorrow's going to be really interesting. Then I agree, there'll be swings on. I'm not counting on a trend day, but I think there'll be swings to the upside, swings to the downside as people position themselves, especially it's a Friday. It's option expiration. We've had some major selling today. So they'll be repositioning for next week, and we have the Fed meeting next week, remember. Is there a micro Russell? I don't think so. I think there's just a mini Russell. I do not believe there's a micro Russell, and I just updated the position sizing future spreadsheet a couple days ago, And I do not believe there was a mini Russell. So I'm in art call with Kathleen. She is crazy. Yes. Give me any updates from now because I can't, of course, listen to any art call with Kathy, but she's a little out there. Here's our arc, by the way. Not our arc, but again, rotate up to the daily rotation zone, rotating down. This is just get brutalized. I expect some kind of weird rally in this once we do get a broad market rally, but that will just be, again, to reload from the short side. Tomorrow, 74.50 will be interesting. Oh, it's actually 74.83 post, so we're right in front of this next harmonic. And then below that, reminder, arc, cluster 60, essentially 69 to 70 is the next area down for a push. Although we're starting to, this is getting harder to go down. So much of the stuff is just absolutely brutalized. I think a lot of people, just the core names that ARC's holding, are watching for a bounce to try to wiggle their way out of it. Let's see. I was in ARC from 60 to 150 out, so you joined their calls. So good job getting out at 150. And that was you got out at 150. Well, that was a pretty good call right there when it started breaking down here after that last push higher. So that was a good exit. Netflix, please. I already got the. You should be happy with those puts. Right now, Shashi. We already looked at Netflix. Nasdaq forming a lot of double top and mini hidden shoulders on the lower time frames. Well, let's get back to the Nasdaq with that. Nasdaq again through the. Let me take a little of this off. Through the 200C, also back to the daily rotation zone, and then that just brutal selling here, clearly below the 200. We have just a ton of overhead resistance. I'm pulling this off now. Ton of overhead resistance on the NASDAQ. So next support area, about 14,592. And then I pretty much just keying off these major lows. This will be a minor area right here. Why am I watching this key close? Because it's also reinforced by this spike low. So below that 14,462, and then the lows back from the 4th of October of 14,835. At this point, we can do a, let me clear up some of this, a reverse harmonic. Should it, and this isn't just for tomorrow, but once we break this 14,367 area, 14,067 and 13,767 are the next levels, then 13,312. Boy, I gotta clear up. Tomorrow I'll be watching again about 15,000. For any bullish stuff. That doesn't mean there can't be, again, this option expiration as we pointed out, but anything below here is just potentially look for rally sell setups, and it would have to get a really strong sustainable move above 15,000 unless I got a mini double bottom or something play tomorrow in the morning. That would just be a scalp play. I mean, overall, other than that, resistance is about 14,967 to 15,000, and then above that we're at about 15,267. I can't even do harmonic projections there because I'd have to base them on, let's just see what it looks like with the most recent swing. We're going to this swing right here. We're about, so 14,395 to about 14,367 if we continue lower tomorrow through this 14,462. I'll be also keeping an eye as this declines overnight with the rotation zone should we get any strong rally on, but there's probably nothing happening tomorrow. at least from my perspective, to besides some little scalp plays. Everything would just be intraday trading. Dow, we had this major support area yesterday. You see rally up just to my bullish area. Could not get through it and then roll over again. Major selling. Here's the Dow also. And this, very few pausing bars, which is more unusual for the Dow. So what are we looking at tomorrow? Bullish line in the sand. Again, and take bullish line in the sand with a grain of salt because there's probably not going to be a lot of bullish longer term stuff. 34,865. The rotation zone's coming in right now at 35,000, but I'll be watching how it connects with this and a possible kiss the trend line goodbye move. Shorter term resistance is at this 34,690 area. Let me take off a bunch of these levels. We're not getting back up there anytime soon. Clean up the charts. These down moves make it great to clean up your charts. Below here, we're going to have to go with about 34,100, then 33,800 are the next key levels lower. And we have major support at 33,725. So this would be my next major support area should we roll on down there. Now, Russell, which also rallied not quite the daily rotation zone, but you see here right in that 4-hour rotation zone, this was a nice bar, and then once it broke through there, again, rotation moved down, massive selling pressure, trying to put in at least some kind of little end of day potential bottom here. Not quite, yes, that 2000 to 2004 area. Just going to take a look based off of this most recent swing, what it's looking like. And the next major area is this 1945 to about 1941 key area with 1975 in between. On any rally, I'll be watching the 2060 area. For a closing basis, intraday, that'll be resistance, but then if we do rally up, that'll be watching where we close in reference to that. What else do we want to look at? Crude finally might be putting in at least a short-term top, which is nice because I'm watching for some pullbacks to see for a reestablishment of a potential long. We have this 4-hour double that's triggered. Okay, which especially the second target I'm watching with the rising daily rotation zone, about 83.19 area, so I'll be watching that. Like we could spike down this 82.67, but I'll be watching this on a closing basis. If we get below there, my next target would be back at about 81. Gold, looking to possibly pull back a bit with some selling. I'm still watching. If the markets really get hammered over the next bit, I'm still watching for selling pressure to come in with some precious metals short term, but then bullish on the long term. I'm watching 1833 to see if we can pull back there and how that holds for support. Silver, nice little continued run up now overbought, retesting again the 200. I'm now watching to see on a pullback how it reacts. Copper, trying to get a little rally on. I'm watching for a close over 457. Here's what I was talking about with the 10-year notes. And this was on Discord today. Little head and shoulders pattern. It's a little tougher to see on the 4-hour, 1-hour, shoulder, head, shoulder, and it is valid. It's a little sloppy, but it is valid. The targets on that, this 128 area, first level, and then we'd be looking at about 128.06 and 128.12. So I'm watching for a slight continued rally in the notes. Here's the yields, and you can see Here's that harmonic. It tried to poke up, but now we've had a reversal near that area. Great area to move up the stops on the yields. So we definitely have area to pull back a little more. This was really overdone. You see a little divergence up there also. So I'm watching for the slightly bigger pullback. You can see how overextended it is from the weekly. So what's interesting is even with yields pulling back, the markets this afternoon could not catch a bid. All right. And let's check in a dollar index. Again, dollar index, this prior resistance area or support area becoming resistance. I'm really interested to see if we do continue to break down or if it was put in a short-term low and we end up back in this consolidation. Oops. Just want to point something else out. Let's just see here. Oops, shoot. I sometimes hate this. 6E. The Euro futures. Just keeping an eye on this. This went lower today, so now I got to go to these other things, but this is still a valid potential double bottom. But in case this does trigger. Now, inflation, you also have to realize, did anybody see the Germany inflation numbers out today? Because that was absolutely brutal. Massive inflation in Germany going on. So that's going to really this is going to really test some of these central banks because they've kept rates this low for that long. And now, do they have the fortitude to really raise them to stave off inflation? That's going to be the whole theme for the next few months. Let's see what else we have on some things. Kathy says her stocks will come back in 5 years. Oh, geez, why write it down though? I mean, I mean, if you still believe Kathy, yeah, China decreased interest rates today. China's going to get really interesting with what's happened. Oh, Micro Russell on CME is M2K. Thank you. I must have missed that. Yep, there it is. Thank you for correcting me. Again, there's the micro on the Russell. I need to add that to my spreadsheet. Thank you. Thank you, Mark. Really appreciate it. Again, if I say something wrong or miss something, please do not be afraid, like Mark did, to call it out in the chat. I will just put it up here. I would rather have the information be correct than me being correct. She is saying the fund performed well. I mean, I don't think this is performing well. This is not a well-performing fund. I mean, it had its run up, but besides there, this is not a well-performing stable fund. Let's see. UNFI. United Natural Foods. Yeah, it's looking oversold, but wow. Nothing I'm touching. Below the 200, I mean, that's just ugly, even on a bounce. I'm not going to touch it. I'm watching again for, I don't know any valuation models. I'd have to check this out more in depth, but just from a technical perspective, it's sell the rallies on this. ISRG. I already looked at Netflix. We can check in again and again because it's trading post hours. ISRG, Intuitive Surgical. I mean, you have some aggressive plays to the long side, but again, you just have to move things up so quickly. You had a gap fill here, but you have a potential still little aggressive long play on a close above. Now it's invalid. I wouldn't touch that at all. I'd watch for a bounce, and you still have this gap on a daily basis, but that's just coming back to your daily rotation zone. And this major support broken with this selling, it would just be a bounce play, and there's nothing I'd touch with it. Because your major support becoming resistance, this is where people get burned trying to call bottoms, because you'll eventually be right, but unless you can be really nimble with your stops and really, it's almost day trading it until you catch a run, it's tough. Let's see what else. Netflix again. We already went through that earlier, but let's see. Oh, it's at 410 now. Post. So you have, again, this is not even on a rally. This is rallies to be sold. Easily rallies to be sold on Netflix. Your other support, I mean, it's below this 200 week. 466, even on a bounce back to that. It's, I'd just be watching for rallies to be sold on this. I can't touch it. Again, try to find something strong or stand aside and wait. Unless you're day trading. Okay, if it gets some momentum and you want to take a shot and keep ratcheting up your stock, that's one thing. But for the average person or even the swing trader, it's too, the reward to risk is just skewed to the risk side. Canada also had the highest inflation since 1991. Fed has to start stepping in aggressively. I agree. I mean, we should have interest rates right now, I think, around 4%. And we're at still zero. Even if they hike 0.25% or even 50 basis points in March, they're never going to get to 4%. That's what's so interesting. We're going to have a massive slowdown before then. Quick refresh look at SoFi. Yeah, little bounce play. And now, you're back to your weekly rotation zone. So you got the little bounce play. And this is the way. I mean, if you're going to try to do something with this, again, man, you have to manage your stops. And, especially if it starts rolling back below this $14 mark, be careful again. It's just put in a short-term low. But that's the kind of stuff. You can catch these little bounces, but they're not for, I wouldn't roll them into long-term holds at this point. I mean, you can keep a little on if you want for a potential runner. But other than that, it's just trying to catch these bottoms. And with weak markets, it's tough. High dividend, VYM as a proxy. That's Vanguard high dividend yield. I mean, even this, it's at least back to, if you're watching for, if you like some dividend stuff, though, I'd have to look what the holdings are. This could be interesting, though, to see if it holds here. Back to the weekly rotation zone, broke out of this long-term base. So if that gets a rotation up, that could be an interesting play. That Vanguard high dividend yield. That could be an interesting play if the market's at least stabilized short term. At least it's got its pull back to this major breakout area. Yeah, we've already talked about gold in Russia. Huge news for a laser today. Well, I don't know what the news was. Luminar Technologies, it definitely had the bounce, but you'd have to tell me what the news was. I did not see anything scroll on my stuff about it, but I don't follow this closely. Let's just see what that looks like weekly. Again, just seeing if there's any, no. Mercedes will use their technology. That's interesting. That is interesting. This could be interesting to watch for then a new longer term play. I have no idea. I have to actually check out the valuations on that too. So I'll have to look at some of that, but that could be interesting, especially if it gets back above. I'm going to add a little alert here. Back above 18 bucks with the daily 200, it could get and gets above there. It could be an interesting longer term play. That could be. It technically had an aggressive entry today. So Rich hit it. Mercedes deal. Thank you for filling me in, both Rich and Liquid Visas. Thank you. So yeah, I'll get a key. This was an aggressive entry. Again, it's got to sustain. You have to keep your stops below this 1340 level. But I'll get more interested in if it gets around this $18 mark and see how it reacts to 200. If it can get above there, that's more. I'd rather be patient on some of these and with these market conditions and miss a little of a move and wait for a better, more stable, longer term move. But I definitely add that to a potential aggressive, longer term play. You know. All right. Let's see, 416. I don't see anything else. We've gone through a bunch of stuff. Let me just take a look at, I wanted to double check with the Microsoft Activision. So yeah, Microsoft, I'm really interested Microsoft watching how it behaves back at this 200. So I got an alert down there. I might have to bump that up just a little. That's where I'm watching Microsoft earnings on the 25th. So I'm going to be really interested in watching that come up and possibly a post-earnings play pending how it reacts there and if it's still a decent setup. So that's key. There's your Activision. Just going to sit and hang out here because of its merger potential. Unless that falls apart, then you'll get the gap play, but nothing else there. Agreed. Joined it, and it's not because it's my Discord. It's dirt cheap to join, and please join. A lot of people having a lot of great discussion. Bulls hang in there. Your time will come. Now everybody is in major panic mode. Things will limit down the next few days. Bulls will have their time. There'll be some great bullish moves. But we really need to get this market corrected and, get to some better longer-term valuations again, and then there'll be great plays. It's all about waiting for a buy signal, momentum to the upside, or a bottom pattern. Exactly. No rush to go long, but the time will come. Yes. And if you're going to go long aggressively and try to catch bottoms, you're going to have to manage it very, very aggressively with stops because you don't want to catch a bounce and then have it turn into a loser. That's where I've talked about it. Work on getting it at some key resistance points with your bounce. Take part of your position off. Get your stops to break even. So if it rolls over again, fine. You took some profits. You got the rest at break even. It rolled over. You're back out. Versus trying to sit, I'm going to try to hold this for a long time and then riding it all back down. That's just silly in my book with these markets right now. There will be bounces. There will be aggressive bounces. But until the structure of this market changes and solidifies, there's just not a lot of long-term things to just sit back, buy, and, okay, I can just not look at this all the time. It's, hey, this rallied a bit, I got to ratchet up my stop. Hey, continue to rally a bit more, got to ratchet up my stop. So when we do get those rollover moves again, you're not giving it all back and more. With that, I will talk to everyone later, and I'll see everybody who's interested in the company that shall not be named in a few minutes. I have been warning, and we started talking about the breath was stinking. I talked about that a long time ago. Yeah, Nasdaq's down, and I think Nasdaq will go down 20%, not from here, but at least hit that 20% level after some bounces. Yeah, old Jew would be trying to buy the drip, and this is a point. Sit on your hands and wait for great setups. There'll always be great setups again. You don't have to do anything every day. There's times to just say, hey, there's nothing for me to do from my time frame perspective. There's nothing to do. I can watch the market, but I'm not going to be stupid with my money. Don't be stupid with your money right now. Talk to everyone later. Bye for now.